In this second video for chapter 4, we're going to discuss the concept of menu engineering. How do we create our menu to make sure that it's the most profitable? The tool that we're going to use to identify different menu items and put them into different categories is this chart right here. So we have 4 different categories. We have star, dog, puzzle, and plow horse. And the way that it's related is that we have profitability or contribution margin, and we have our popularity. So we have low and we have high. If something has low popularity, but it has high contribution margin, that is a puzzle. If it has high popularity and high contribution margin, those two meet at the star. Okay? They make us a lot of money, people love them. The one that's really interesting to me is the plow horse. They're really popular, people love them, but they don't make us a lot of money. And so we have that plow horse. People love it, it's popular, doesn't make us a lot of money. And so we want to figure out kind of how do we direct people to our stars, or how do we change menu items to the point where they can alter the different categories that they belong in. The first step in menu engineering is to analyze the menu mix. And essentially that just means how popular items are on our menu. And so the first step to calculating our popularity for each item is going to add up all items sold. Then we need to divide the individual items by the total. Essentially, this is the whole and this is the part. And so popularity is always represented as a percentage. So let's take a look here. We first take our total 4,845 items sold of each item, of each menu item. Then we divide each one by that 4,845 to get our percentage, okay? The way we can check our work is adding up all of our percentages, and if we get 100 or close to it, based on your decimals, you might get like 99.8 or 9, you might get 100.1. As long as you're close to that 100 mark, then you're in good shape. So the next step as far as the popularity when we're analyzing our menu is to identify what our benchmark is. Okay, that's what we're going to compare all of those individual items to. And so we want to look at what our expected popularity is. To find that, that's going to basically be the average popularity. So we take 100%, we divide that by the number of menu items. Okay, and so in this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different menu items. So we take 100%, we divide that by 8 items, and we get 12.5%. That is our average popularity percentage, okay? Now, we could take that 12.5% as the average, but when we're identifying what that benchmark is, we're going to be looking at what's called the percent of the expected popularity. And so I might say that in order for something to become really popular, I want to make sure that it meets 80% of the expected popularity. So then what we do next is our 12.5% times our 80%, and we get 10. Okay? 10 is 80% of 12.5. Now what we can do is we can use this 10 to compare all of our other items to. So our chicken breast dinner is 10%. Is that higher or lower than 10%? Well, 17.9 is definitely higher. Seafood platter is going to be lower. 14.9 is higher. Lower. 8.4 is lower. 13.6 is higher. 28.4 is higher. And meatloaf is lower. Let's see if we got that right. High, low, low, high, low. We're in good shape. Okay? So we have what our benchmark is for our popularity. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. So the next piece of the puzzle that we're going to be looking at in our menu engineering is going to be the contribution margin. For the contribution margin, we want to take the menu price and we want to subtract our recipe cost. That's going to give us our contribution margin. And so what you see here is we have $1.50 for our hamburger. It cost us 60 cents to make it, which gives us a 90-cent contribution margin. If we do this all the way down, then we will see what our contribution margin is for each item. Now remember, when we're menu engineering, we want to compare something to identify whether it has a high contribution margin or low contribution margin. And so to find that benchmark, we need to identify the average contribution margin. So step 1 is to add all contribution margins. Step 2 is to divide by the number of items. And then our third step is then to compare. So we add all of our totals together, we get $3.79. If I take that $3.79 and divide by 6, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 menu items, my average contribution margin becomes 63 cents. Now I can compare each one of these. So 90 is higher, 63 cents is higher or at or equal to, 43 cents is lower, 64 cents is higher, 70 is higher, 49 is lower. So now we have our high-low categories for our contribution margins. So we have this menu engineering worksheet that you see here. It's a lot of information, but let's focus on what we know, okay? The total number of covers, this is our menu mix, okay? Then we also have, in columns D and E, we have our menu price as well as our food cost. That will give us our contribution margins, okay? And so you'll see in column F is where we actually have our contribution margins. Now, how do we know whether this is high or low? Well, if we look at P and R, then we know they've already figured it out for us. But how do we know? So applying our steps, let's do contribution margin first. So we add up all of our ingredient contribution margins and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we divide by 8 and we will get a total of $51.64 is our total contribution margin divided by 8 items. Hey Siri, what is $51.64 divided by 8? So we get an average contribution margin of $6.46. That's our average. So now we can go back and look. As our contribution margin, our average is $6.46. And so we can look at our chicken breast. $5.14 is lower. 664 is higher, just barely. 1871 is definitely higher. And then 539 is lower. Pork chops is low. Hamburgers are low. Cheeseburgers are low. And meatloaf is low. Okay. Now let's look at our popularity percentage. We figured out earlier that our benchmark is 10%. Okay, now that was 80% of the average 12.5 percentage. That 80% really can be set by you as the restaurant owner. You can say that it needs to be 75%. You could say that it needs to be 90% of the average. In this case, we're using that 80%. So if it's 10, of course we have high, 5.2% is lower, 14.9 is higher, 7.1 is lower, 8.4 is lower, 13.6 and 28.4 are higher, and then 4.5 is lower. So now we can fill out our chart. Of course, remember we have our popularity percentage, and we have contribution margin. The thing I like to do is find the like categories. So we know that high is star, that's the easiest to identify. So high is star, and we'll do steak. Once you see it, you cross it out. High, that's the only high. The other one that's really easy to identify is the low, which is our dogs. So we look low, a dog, we have a turkey sandwich. Low dog is our pork chop. And then our other dog is our meatloaf. Now the one that comes into play is the puzzle and the plow horse. I want you to focus on one at a time. So the low contribution and the high popularity, people love it, but doesn't make us a lot of money, is that plow horse. Okay, and so let's look at that, low, high. The first one is our chicken breast. Then we have, let's keep looking for low, high. Low, high. We have our hamburger as well as our cheeseburger. And then what's left over is our seafood platter. Okay, as our puzzle. Now we have analyzed our menu, so we can determine what is the most popular, what are some things that maybe aren't so popular and they don't make us a lot of money. Do we need to keep them on our menu when we revise our menu for the next time? This is how we engineer it. We can also get to a point where, let's say we want to have things be more popular, like this seafood platter, for example. It brings us a lot of money, but it's not quite popular. So maybe we need to make sure that our servers are selling it and recommending it. Maybe we need to put like a table tent on the tables to advertise that we have seafood platters. Maybe we need to offer a menu or a special during the month, maybe decrease the menu price a little bit to make it a little bit more enticing. Maybe people will buy it more if it costs a little bit less, which would then make it more popular. And so there's lots of different things we can do. We also have, if we have different items like our chicken sandwich, hamburger, and cheeseburger, for example, they bring us, they're really popular, but they don't bring us a lot of money. So maybe we can look at changing our recipes a little bit to see if we can maybe increase that contribution margin to get them over into that star category. When we meet in class, we are going to work through this menu product mix for Mel's Quick Bite Grill. And we're going to look at what could potentially happen if we change our selling prices for specific items. What does that do to the menu engineering, and how does that change different categories, if at all?